Hey, what's up, guys? It's DJ Trades back with another video, and today we're going to be doing my third annual March Madness predictions video. And I'm going to be filling out a bracket of my own, and then we're going to go through tips and tricks you guys can avoid. I'm going to show you guys patterns and what to look for and what not to look for in brackets and different teams in March Madness tournament. So, starting off, we're going to be looking at posers. And posers are not the worst teams in the tournament and they're not going to be the lowest seeds in the tournament. Posers, you're going to see here Baylor, Gonzaga, Virginia, Kentucky are my four posers. These teams are good teams with good regular seasons that, in my opinion, don't have what it takes to take it far into March Madness, and they could get an early first weekend upset in the first one or two games. And so, starting off with Baylor, a super young team with a ton of vets that are still there from their championship run and these Final Four runs in the last 2 and 3 years. They have the same coaching staff and the same veteran presence on the team, but with Flo Thamba or Flagler, but they're still these young guys. Keontae George are still really bringing them to a next level this year. But they were fourth in the Big 12, had a few bad losses, a few quad one losses as well. But it's important to me looking at their losses like Marquette, really bad loss, Virginia, bad loss. I think they're a good team that had a good season, but I just don't think it's their year. I think they're going to fall early, and they have a tough matchup early on too. So we can we can see a lot of stuff going on early rounds with these high seeds. So I think Baylor against UCSB, they might get the win, but I think Creighton will get them next round. I just think Baylor, you can pick them against UCSB. 3 and 14s usually don't get upset, but they're still a poser to me. And my next poser is Gonzaga. And Gonzaga is just they're a team with a lot of experience, as you guys know. Great runs in the last few years with Chet Holmgren, Jalen Suggs, Drew Timme, and they've still filled out their roster pretty well. And they, even though they lose talent, they're a place to great every year, and they have great seasons, winning most of their games, only a game to like St. Mary's in the conference tourneys. But I think they don't have what it takes this year. I think they're not the same championship level team. All the criticism they've gotten in the past is that they're in a weak conference. They play weaker teams, so they're inflated record. But their record wasn't that good. They kind of squeaked by their conference with San Francisco, St. Mary's, almost performing better than they were. And I don't think they're gonna be able to outform the rest of the teams in the tournament. They did, just like Baylor, they did get a fairly good seed with three against the 14, so it'd be hard to pick GCU there, Grand Canyon, but I don't think they're going to get by teams like TCU or Northwestern or UCLA. So Baylor's my next one. That could be an early exit. And then the next team, a blue blood, Kentucky. It's been a tough year for blue bloods, but John Calipari's had a very tough recent few years. Losing to Oral, or sorry, that's Ohio State, but losing to St. Peter's last year did not help at all. Oscar Tshiebwe, he was Player of the Year last year, but really you can't improve when your whole team's already focused on him in the first place. I think they can see an early upset. They got the six against an 11 in Providence, which honestly I wouldn't put it past Providence to beat him, but in my opinion, Kansas State's where they're going to be out. So, and then my last poser is Virginia. UVA, tough regular season. ACC was not the same as it was, and they still couldn't really wrap it up themselves. They had the opportunity. And Virginia, also a championship level team, just like Gonzaga, just like Kentucky, just like Baylor. But I think it's going to be a down year for them. And you guys might be surprised, you're going to see later on, but Furman, I love Furman. It is a 4 and a 13, but I'm going to talk about this more later. This year's March Madness is one of the most open brackets. There's no Zion, Cam, RJ Barrett, Dukes. There's no Gonzaga powerhouse teams. There's no great blue bloods. This is open to anyone. So we're going to see a lot of upsets this year. None of the one seeds were amazing. Houston just had a bad loss to Memphis last game of the year without Sasser, obviously, but that being said, I think Virginia will could even be a first game exit, but definitely not even making Sweet 16. And next up, the opposite opposers, my upset watch. And upset watch, just to clarify, is not you're gonna see Marquette's a two seed, but it's not the low seeded teams that are gonna have Cinderella. This is not a Cinderella list. It's teams that are gonna turn heads. It's teams that are gonna win games and prove they deserve to be here. And they're just my favorite teams who I think are just so well rounded and just are really gonna surprise people. And the first one, Marquette, it is a two seed. I still think they're an amazing team, underrated for a two seed. And they're different from the other three who are technically more Cinderella type teams. But this Marquette team is the best team since probably Dwayne Wade, 2003. And it's a super talented team. Kolek, one of the best point guards in the country, passing wise, underrated defender. Cam Jones, amazing shooting guard, just one of the best offensive pieces. And then Iguodaro, Maxime Prosper. The front court in this team is just as good, and they have a well-rounded bench. They don't have a starting five. They have guys that like Joplin or Stevie Mitchell that can swap in and out. Super talented roster. They did get a tough half of the bracket, but I'm a huge fan in their team. I think Vermont is not as good as they were last year, even, although Vermont couldn't win last year either. USC, Michigan State, not amazing. Kansas State will be tough, but Duke is not as good. Purdue's been beaten. Marquette's a good team. For me, they're going to go far either way. I think minimum Sweet 16, and I could easily see them Final Four. I think this is such a talented team. They're such a great team. And the part I haven't even mentioned yet, my favorite part, Shaka Smart, the coach of the year, in my opinion. They dominated the Big East. They were predicted ninth, and they turned everyone just their heads around. They shocked everybody. They killed the Big East, outright won it, won the tournament, won the regular season. Super talented team. I think Marquette has the potential to win a lot of games here. And then next up, probably, the obvious pick for a lot of people, a fan favorite now, Oral Roberts. The team that beat with Max A. Smith that beat Ohio State 2 years ago, and they're 12 seed now. They're moving up, and they were even better this year than they were that year. They're going to be against Duke, which is really tough because I had them on my upset watch before Selection Sunday, obviously. Duke's a tough game. All these blue bloods like Kentucky, Duke. I was gonna say UNC, but they weren't even good enough. That had tough years are still packed with talent and low seeds. Duke has been showing out late in the year, so you can't put it by them. But a 5 and a 12, that's always look for 5 and a 12s. I like to pick minimum one, but at least two, sometimes even three 12s to beat the fives. Because the seeds, the automatic qualifiers are ranked differently than the rest of the teams, like Oral Roberts versus Duke, who weren't even close to winning the ACC. And so it just comes down to the better team. It's nothing to do with seeding. Don't look at the seeding. Obviously, your one, your twos, your threes are going to win most of the games, but upsets happen, and this year especially, they will happen. I can guarantee you a two seed or a three seed will be losing the first game. But Oral Roberts, even better this year. They dominated the entire season. They have a big, tall Vanover center. Vanover, I mean by that. And A. Smith is even better than he was. So that's going to be a tough team to beat. And then next up, Furman, the Paladins, the Dins. Furman is just a good team. I haven't heard too much about them before this year, and they've been showing out. They had a great regular season, coming in as a 13th seed now. In Virginia, they're one of my posers, but obviously a good team. But I really, really like Furman. This is just they're a team that they just play really fast. They play good and strong, not scared of anyone. I think this could be a team that could go far. They could turn some heads. Furman's a team that I was already planning on picking for an upset, and playing Virginia, who's prone to upsets, is even better. We could see a little UMBC action here. And then my last and maybe my favorite team as an upset is Kennesaw State in Georgia. Not too many people have heard about them, not too much history with them, but their coach took over 4 years ago and he has completely turned the program around. His freshman that year, he took from winning one game total and zero conference games to now winning their conference and qualifying for March Madness, which is insanity. They're going to be playing Xavier, which again I didn't plan on. That's a tough matchup, but Xavier hasn't been unstoppable this year. So Kennesaw State, Chris Youngblood, the coaching's amazing. The sets they run, they are just so creative with it. They know they're not a more talented team, more hyped up recruits than other teams, but they just outplan and outplay all the other teams they played this year. I watched them a lot. They have great sets. Chris Youngblood really knows how to play under the coach's system, and they're going to be fun to watch. So I think they could turn some heads, but that's a team. They're going to be good. It's their first year in it, and it is a tough matchup with Xavier. But if you want to go wild, go with Kennesaw State. And waiting for my actual bracket. And so I'm going to go through the entire bracket now that it's here, Selection Sunday, and I'm just going to teach you through my picks. Obviously, don't do exactly what I do. I'm not a genius. I'm not going to get everyone right. I'm going to teach you the trends and patterns you can follow, some upsets, and if you're really stuck on one, you can just fade whatever I do or follow whatever I do. You can do whatever you want. I'm just going to give you a general run through. So, starting off with the one seeds, one seeds win. Obviously, Virginia. We're just going to skip by that. One seeds win games. Bama's winning. Houston's winning. Kansas is winning. Purdue's winning. If you want to take them to lose, be my guest. It's an open bracket, but take your one seeds. And now I'm going to go through the actual bracket, starting with the South region and 8 and 9. And this is another spot. Don't even look at the numbers. 8 and 9. People get caught up picking the eights every year. It will never happen where all four eights win first game. Maryland's a really good team. Tough Big Ten. Such a tough conference. Then West Virginia and Big 12, also really tough, deep conference. This could be a toss up for a lot of people. I am going to pick the 8 Maryland. I think they showed a lot early in the year, but being in the Big Ten kind of caught up to them when every single team is a March Madness contender. That happens. I think West Virginia is a tough team that plays good defense, but Maryland's used to all that. Next, going down, I'm picking San Diego State. And 5 and 12 is the prime number you want to see. 5 and 12s win just as often as fives. It is almost equal. It seems weird, but it's how it works out with the people like Charleston, like automatic qualifiers who aren't as skilled as teams like San Diego State, who just are just higher seed naturally for being better and bigger teams. But 12s are going to win. I like to pick 2 or 3 12s every single year. But in this case, San Diego State's a net team, defense and offense. That's what you want to look for. They're great both categories. And then going down here, my first upset, I'm going to pick the Furman Paladins. I'm a huge fan of them. I don't think anyone's going to pick this, but I'm not a huge fan of Virginia this year. I think it's Kihei Clark's like ninth year in college. Not actually, it's probably fifth or fourth, but they didn't look great. It's like a new Virginia team, and Furman looked exciting and eager to win games. And as you guys know, you cannot pick the favorites every game. In my opinion, I believe the actual number is around 19 upsets in the first round, but you always, in my opinion, you want to pick just what feels, you need your gut feeling because it's upsets will happen. It's a guarantee. So no one gets them all right, but you got to go from, you got to be gutsy. The person with the all favorite bracket will get left out and do bad every year. Creighton, NC State. NC State, I didn't have them making the tournament. Creighton really good this year in the Big East, super underrated team, and I'm a huge fan of Creighton this year. And then going down Baylor, UCSB. UCSB's second straight year in it. It's a 3 and 14. Baylor's just a better team with Keontae George, that championship experience with the rest of the vets. And I could see UCSB winning, but Baylor's just too much talent. Utah State, Missouri, also a tough team, a tough game. I'm gonna pick Utah State here. And a 7 to 10, same thing, 8 and 9. It doesn't matter. Arizona, Princeton. Arizona does so much talent. I'm a huge fan of them in the Pac-12. Just beat UCLA. I think they're going to be real good. And then moving down to the East, I already have Purdue winning. Then Memphis, FAU. FAU was close to being on my upset list, but just kind of slowed down at the end of the year. I'm still going to pick Memphis. I think Penny's done a great job turning it around. Kendrick Davis, he lost him and then he joined him. What's better than that? And they looked real good with him and DeAndre Williams. That's a good Memphis team with Penny Hardaway. They could turn some heads and make a big run. And then Duke Oral Roberts, another 5-12. This is going to be tough because we just picked a 5 up here. A lot of people are going to want this 12. I'm sticking with the 5 and Duke. Duke's a good team with Proctor. Obviously had a down year, but they're a good team one way or another. Oral Roberts is amazing, and it actually pains me to make one of my upsets lose first round, but Duke has that talent. I think this is going to be a favorite upset right here. I think a lot of people are going to ride with Oral Roberts and Asmus, and that's going to be fun, but Duke looked real good at the end with Filipowski. And then Tennessee, Louisiana. I'm going with Tennessee, the 4 seed. Tennessee did not look good. I'm not a huge fan of them, but it's just Louisiana. They had a tough time making the tourney as itself. And then moving back down, Kentucky, Providence. This could be tough. I'm gonna pick Providence here. I am not a fan of Kentucky. Sheboy's good, but you can't be a champion with running your offense around that every single year, every single game. I like the upset here with Providence, but this could go either way. It's all up to you. Kansas State, I think it speaks for itself. I'm a huge fan of Kansas State. Keontae Johnson looking amazing this year, coming back for them and from Florida, and I'm a huge fan of them. MSU, USC, I'm gonna pick Michigan State and Tom Izzo again, but that could go either way. Also, USC just didn't look great with Boogie Ellis. Marquette, I'm a huge fan of. They're just Vermont's not the same as they were, not an upset or a Cinderella, and Marquette looks real good. And then moving on up here, we have Iowa versus Auburn at 8-9 again. I'm picking Auburn. Last year they were amazing, but they got upset real early. But still have Katie Johnson, a lot of those guys back on the team. They lost their core, but they're still going to be good. Iowa, just I'm not a huge fan. I know Murray, he's still pretty much the same as his brother, but I'm not a huge fan of Iowa. They lost a lot of games this year. Miami Drake, I'm super high on Miami. Isaiah Wong is him. He's dirty, and I think Miami's a team that can go real far. And then moving down, Indiana versus Kent State. Trace Jackson Davis is good with Indiana. I'm going to pick him to win, but I'm not a huge fan, and that could be a potential upset there. Iowa State, I am super high on, however. I think that's a great team, offense and defense wise. They upset a lot of people like Baylor multiple times. That's the team that I think could go real far. And then Xavier, Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State is one of my teams, and I will pick them. I'm not a huge fan of Xavier. Big East, they really didn't do as well as they could have done. Marquette stole it from them, but Kennesaw State, Chris Youngblood, that whole team with the coaching, it's amazing. I think he's just going to outcoach Xavier, and I think that could be a big upset. And then moving state, Jalen Pickett's Penn State versus TAMU, Texas A&M. I'm picking Penn State. Wouldn't call it an upset, but a lower seed moving on. Pickett's him. They're real good, and I think he proved it in the Big Ten tournament. They went to the final game against Purdue and could have won it. One shot away, a few inches away from winning the Big Ten. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm picking Penn State. And then Texas, I think, will beat Colgate. Not a huge fan of Texas, but I think they have the talent either way. Arkansas, Illinois, I'm picking Arkansas. Preseason, I had them top five. I'll just be completely honest. I thought they were going to be amazing. I thought JD Notae was also coming back. Jalen Williams, I did not, but they did have a down year, especially compared to last year, how good they were, but I still think they'll beat that. And then VCU, St. Mary's, I'm picking the 12th here with VCU. I love this VCU team. Such a gritty team in the A10. And they didn't dominate the A10, but they showed how good they were. And teams like Loyola, Dayton, Davidson just showed they are not on the same level. St. Mary's, though, great team in their respective conference. Almost beat Gonzaga, but I like the upset here. UConn, Iona, I think Rick Pitino's done to the Big East again. UConn's just a better team, Sonogo. Great roster that can go far. And then moving down to the last half bracket, I think TCU will beat Nevada or Arizona State. TCU is a good team. They will be moving on. And then Gonzaga, Grand Canyon. A lot of people had Grand Canyon last year as a Cinderella. It's not happening again. Gonzaga will win that game. Pretty confident in that. Northwestern, Boise State. I love Northwestern. Boo Booey. He's he's amazing on offense. They are very reliant on him, and they kind of struggled at the end of the Big Ten, but they still had a good place. But when teams kind of figured out Bowie, that it kind of hurt them. And then UCLA against UNC Asheville. I think UCLA is just too talented. And now the second round, Bama versus Maryland. I think Bama, they set up their shooters good on this team. Brandon Miller, I think he's the best player in the country. Whether he assists and murders off the court or not, he's still good at basketball. I'll pick them to move on. San Diego State versus Furman. I would love to pick Furman, but San Diego State, just such a well balanced team. And in that COVID year where it got canceled, they were a top 10 team. People forget that. They had a good season that year, and I think they're riding off that with the same coaching. And now Creighton Baylor, I'm picking another upset. I love Creighton. They were just really good in their conference play. Baylor was not, and I know Baylor had a tough conference, and they're the higher seed as a 3 seed, but I like the upset here with Creighton. And then Arizona, I'm picking them Utah State. I love Arizona, my favorite Pac-12 team this year to watch. They're exciting. They have the same core the last 4 years. Now with their center last year gone and Balo stepping right back up. It happens every year. They replace their talent better than most teams I've seen, especially with European talent. And now moving down to the East bracket, I'm taking Purdue. Zach Edey, he's just too good. Memphis, I love Memphis. If they were matching up a different team here, I would 100% pick them. Penny Hardaway, huge fan of him, huge fan of Kendrick Davis. This game is going to be close. Memphis could 100% win, but I think Edey's going to be unstoppable. 30-point game, calling it now. And then Duke, Tennessee. I'm picking Duke. A lot of people are going to hate on Duke, probably first round upset, but Tennessee, not a huge fan. I struggled with injuries the last few years they had some great runs, but not this year. I think Duke's gonna surprise people because how overrated people are going to call them. Duke is still a good team. They have still the best recruiting class. Dakir Whitehead, Filipowski, they're still on the team, whether they had a down year or not. And then Kansas State Providence, I'm going to go with Kansas State. I love this Kansas State team. They just fight hard, beating Kansas multiple times. They might be the little brother down there, but they can they can prove that they're here to stay. Marquette, Michigan State. I'm picking Marquette again. I do like Michigan State. I think it's Izzo's one of his last years, but AJ Hoggard's a great passer, but Kolek is just gonna one up him in every single part of the game. He's a better passer, better defender. I think Cam Jones is also gonna be unstoppable in this game. And Marquette's front court is just they're nice. They're nice. And I think they're gonna get a fairly easy win there in the first weekend. Now moving to the Midwest, I'm gonna take Houston. Sasser is hurt. He should be back soon. All season, that's something. They're the one seed for a reason, and it's because they win games. And Auburn's not the same team as last year. I just can't see them upsetting here. Miami, Indiana. I'm picking Miami. I love Isaiah Wong. I love this team. Great ACC run. Indiana did good for the Big Ten in a tough conference, but they didn't. They look too reliant. I love the coaching they have too set up with their post play, kicking it back out. I love Wooden's system, but I think it's going to be the same story as the last years with Jackson Davis too. And then Iowa State versus Kennesaw State. I'd love to pick Kennesaw State. I think a lot of people are kind of learning about them now. I've been on them for a bit now, but I think Iowa State super balanced. Them and San Diego State are my two like balanced net teams that are just going to be reliable. Now Penn State, Texas. I'm going with the upstate Penn State. I'm going with it. I love Jalen Pickett. I love Penn State. They're showing they deserve to be here. They were a bubble team until they went on that run. They want it bad. And Texas has not impressed me at all. Now moving down to the last quadrant in the West, Kansas, Arkansas. I'm picking Kansas. They got a lot of talent on that team, all the way down to Grady Dick. He's a bucket. He's a cum bucket, you could say. And I think Kansas will. They obviously had some big losses during the year, but still made up for it and still one seed. VCU, UConn. This is tough at 12-4, but I love VCU. Super gritty team. I think there's too much talent on UConn with Snogo and the guard play, but VCU could definitely shock people there, but I just have to go with the talent. TCU, Gonzaga. Oh, it's super tough. I'm not a huge fan of Gonzaga. I'm gonna go with TCU as an up. I'm gonna go with TCU. That's really close for me. I wrote down TCU. I'm gonna stick with it, but that's going to be close. I'm just not a fan of Gonzaga this year. And then moving down to the last game, UCLA Northwestern. I'm going to pick UCLA. They looked really good. Northwestern, I love them. They were one of my original upset teams on upset watch, but UCLA stacked with talent. And now moving on, who's going to be in my Elite Eight? I'm picking Alabama. I love San Diego State, as I've mentioned multiple times. Alabama's just too good. They find their shots well. They're just stacked with talent. Best player in the country possibly is on their team. Maybe Zach Edey, but he's good. Alabama, one way or another, they're a good team. Creighton, Arizona. I really want to pick Creighton. I really do, but I'm gonna pick Arizona. It's just such a deep team. I think the deepest team in all of college basketball. Every single player could start on this team and drop 20 points a game, and they have multiple times. Larson, Tubulus, Ballo, the other Tubulus. They're a fun team to watch. I think Creighton will take the L there. Now moving down to the East, Purdue Duke. I'm picking Purdue. I think that Filipowski is not going to guard Edey, and Purdue's going to be good. I do think Purdue could get upset early, as they have in the Big Ten this year. Not in the tournament, but earlier in the season. But they're just too good for Duke, and I'm going to pick Marquette against Kansas State. I still love this Marquette team. Amazing coaching, great defense, great offense, great hustle and grind. Houston, Miami. I'm picking Miami with the upset. Sasser could still be here. It doesn't matter to me. I love this Miami team. They shocked people last year with Wong. I think they're making the same run to the Elite Eight. And then there's really, look at this, a 5, a 6, and a 10. I'm still going to go with Iowa State. I love this team. Super well rounded. Penn State, Jalen Pickett's good, but I don't think he'll be able to take on the whole team by himself. And then moving down, Kansas, UConn. I'm taking Kansas. UConn was the number one team for a bit start of the year, but Kansas is they're just too good at basketball. A lot of talent. And then TCU, UCLA. I'm gonna go with UCLA. there's just so much talent on that team. Same thing as their amazing run last year as the 11th seed. They lost Juzang, but they kept a lot of that team and got guys like Amari Bailey making huge impacts freshman year. It's crazy. And that is my lead eight. And you're gonna notice a one seed, a two seed, a one seed, a two seed, a one seed, a two seed, and then a five and a six. A little crazy over here. But don't be afraid to do that because most champions, if you go through the recent years, are one and twos. People like to throw it off and not go with their gut because they're worried about the little numbers next to their names. It does not matter. I think I think a lot could happen. Like Duke could easily win that game that could throw it off, but I think that good teams are good teams and good teams win. That being said, Arizona's beating Alabama. I love Arizona. Possibly my favorite team in this tournament, but there's so much talent. Alabama could 100% win, but Arizona, I think, just has too much talent. Follow. And then going down Purdue Marquette, I'm picking Marquette with the upset. I think Edie's going to be unstoppable, but Marquette did play Purdue already, and it was a close game. And Marquette did lose, and they lost a lot early in the year to teams like Wisconsin, but they had massive wins over Baylor, massive Big East wins. They won the entire conference. I love Shaka Smart. He knows how to work his magic from VCU to Texas to Marquette. I love Marquette for Final Four bid. And now Miami, Iowa State. I am gonna go with Miami. I think that's crazy. It's getting crazy over here in the Midwest. I still like Miami. Isaiah Wong, he's just so good. He is so fluid. I've never seen anyone move just like that. Like he just glides around the court. He's a bucket, guaranteed. And then I think guys like Gabe Cashour, like good Iowa State rounded guys, just won't be able to stop him. And then going down to Kansas UCLA, I think this is also going to be tough, but I'm going to give it to UCLA. I think there's more well-rounded. Kansas is amazing. Don't get me wrong. He could have been number one overall in the whole. He could have been the best player of the year, but he kind of slid down below Edie and Brandon Miller. But I think UCLA is just super well-rounded still, and I think they're just going to beat him out. And now, as you can see, I have no one seeds left. A one seed will probably make it. I don't have it in this bracket. I will be making multiple, but this is my favorite one I'm going to pick for you guys. Anyone, you can also make multiple brackets yourself. You can flip your upsets around if it's Baylor, UCSB, Xavier, Kennesaw, whatever you want to do, whatever your gut feels like. Go with your gut. Now, Arizona, Marquette. I will be picking Arizona. Marquette's good, but that's going to be tough to get that far. I do love Marquette, as you know, but Arizona's full of talent. And then going to Miami versus UCLA, a cross country rivalry here at NRG Stadium. I think UCLA will beat Miami. I think Miami, a slight type Cinderella run as a five, if you want to call it that. A Final Four run, I guess, is better, warranted, but I think UCLA has too much talent. That being said, I'm giving Arizona the win. It's going to be a Pac 12 rematch in this bracket. Whatever you think the score is, I just, whatever, close game, free throws. Boom. That's the end of my bracket. As you can see, upsets happen all the time. Count your upsets. I had quite a few. I had probably more than usual, but you want to pick your upsets. You want to have fun. You want to go with your gut. That's the most important thing. Go with your gut. Don't listen to other people unless it's me, because I'm a genius and I'm smarter than you and everyone else. But that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And make sure to leave a like if you liked it. Comment down below any of your picks. I'll talk to you in the comments. If you disagree with me, I guarantee you do somewhere. And I'll make sure to respond to you. Subscribe if you like the video. I'll be making more soon. And thanks for watching.